Hello, I'm Dr. Beverly Wright, and welcome to Tag Data Talk. Today we have Kevin Enyekwe and Chanyong Yu, and we're talking about developing and delivering quick data science projects. Thanks for being here, guys. Let's
Thank.
start off with a quick question, which is, why are you so cool? Kevin, we'll start with you.
Okay, so I think why am I so cool? Because of the fact that I find myself in a chemical engineering background, but most most of my drive or most of what pushes me is the urge to do business. So it's strange how I did chemical engineering in my undergrad. I also decided to do my graduate study in chemical engineering.
Nice.
But deep down, I just want to do business. So I'm in a different fight, but I want to actually be in another fight, if
Gotcha.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
data analysis either way.
mhm.
Great, I love it. And Chung Young, tell us, why are you so cool?
Well, first of all, thank you for thinking me as a cool guy. I think the reason I'm cool is the haircut I had last weekend. Um, well, I'm from originally from South Korea, and I came to the U.S. in 2019 to start my doctoral study in international business at the Dallamore School in the University of South Carolina. And I came across this great opportunity to participate in this competition, and then here I am. Thank you.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, absolutely. Great. Well, our topic today is about developing and delivering quick data science projects, which is something I got to tell y'all is it can be really tricky. So, some quick background about these two wonderful guests that we have. We were running something called Master Modeler Competition at University of South Carolina and Georgia Tech. And as you guys know, there were several teams that submitted work for round one. And then we got down to three teams from each fine institution. And these three teams per school, so the six teams total, competed for prize money to answer a business question. It was fairly complex. And you guys actually won. And it was quite a tricky competition. This particular one happened to be about analyzing data to help former foster children that age out not go homeless. And so it was a lot of hard work, I'm sure. So now that we have a better understanding of the parameters, the competition, the rules, help us understand what were some of those big struggles. I mean, you got thrown into a team together, you had to answer this question. What were some of the top struggles and challenges that you had with this competition?
You want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest challenges, struggles for us, for first of all thing is that we had to finish this project within very short time.
Yes.
We are a full-time doctoral student, and then we had to, since we were participating, we had to secure our time to do our best. And 2 to 3 months in doing things in a very short time was can be a challenging thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with him. One of the, like you just mentioned the biggest challenge of all, having to solve a social business question within a gap of 3 months. Not just within a gap of 3 months, being graduate students, you have studies, you have research, and you also have the competition
Yeah.
to deal with. So it was a lot going on at the same time.
Yes. So there's balance, really. I think what I'm hearing from both of you
Yeah.
is that the number one challenge was
Hmm.
balancing your time.
Yes.
That it's
Exactly.
with it being so fast. Now, was there more to the speed than just balancing your time, though? Like, did it give you a certain sense of like pressure? That it's got to be done at a certain time, or what else was it about the speed or other top challenges that you had?
Okay, I will have to say this because it was also part of the challenges we came across. So this is a social um, work problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is like we are trying to solve human science. It's just like human science. Now, let me say from my own personal point of view, being a chemical engineering student, I am used to, data from the lab, like
Yes.
science data. Now, having to deal with human
Human data,
science
yes.
data, it was a different ball game.
Interesting.
And it's you know it's crazy how I was I had to deal with a different field, different principle, different objective, and having to work with someone from a diverse background, different field. He is in business school. I am African, he is Asian, two different
Wow.
vast background. Like there
Yes.
were a lot of things were apart, but we
Very different.
had a way to make it make sense.
Very different.
That
So-
was challenging, but it was fulfilling at the end of the day because we
Yeah.
got the result.
So
Um,
far we have the speed itself and trying to balance everything, the social human aspect of this, like it's human data, and you didn't really say it, Kevin, but I think I'm sensing a tinge of it really mattered because it was a nonprofit thing and it could save lives, and that puts more kind of pressure. All new kind of data, all new kind of environment, collaborating with someone from a business background, very different than chemical engineering, and a clash of cultures. The combination is the coming together, which is one of the things I loved about your team. What other types of top challenges, Chanyong, would you say
Yeah.
were present for this kind of quick
Yeah.
project?
I think I can talk about some technical aspect,
Yes.
which is a lot of time when I was practicing myself, how to the understanding the logic of data science and running the code myself. A lot of times I was given cleaned data set, but this time, and I'm sure a lot of people in the industry also has this issue of dealing with unclean data set.
Yes.
And then like when you participate in the competition,
Yes.
you gotta identify different sources of data sets, and then trying to merge it with the with those data sets, and then you gotta clean it. When you clean it, there's problem of missing data. How are you going to like imputate these missing values, and then making it available right before the analysis? That was a challenge that I had to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Messy data. Wow, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I impress on my students all the time and that I tell new team members or anybody working on a quick project is they're trying to skip over that part. They just want the data to be modeled right.
Yeah.
And so there's this tendency to just jump in and not have to do anything. But
Yeah.
I bet that in the process of trying to analyze it, you're realizing we can't just skip over that. We have to deal with this messy data issue. That's a great answer. Are there other things that were particular? I mean, this is a big list of challenges, but are there other types of big boulders that you had to pick up and move in order to make this happen in a quick way?
Hey, this data contest was quick. Everything about it was challenging. Like from getting a teammate, having to get the framework of your question.
Oh,
You
the
know,
question.
it-
Okay.
It's looked really simple and straightforward on the website. Like, okay, develop a model for utilization of housing voucher.
Yes.
But the moment you dive in research,
You realize it's very complicated.
many times we tend to deviate from the quick question.
Yes.
Many times we find ourselves doing something else because of the data you come across. It tends to guide your path, but we always have to find way back to the right path. We don't want to end up answering a different question.
Interesting.
And I could remember you reminded of that many times. I think you said it during the Zoom meeting. You made sure everyone knows, please don't deviate from the business question.
Yeah.
please don't. So,
So
that
that was a hard thing to remember.
that was challenging.
It's just, okay.
That was
Yeah, in addition to that, I think because we are dealing with the social issue,
Yes.
there are practitioners who have been thinking about spending a lot of time to tackle this issue, thinking about this issue a lot.
Yes.
And then we are here like to trying to develop a model, and then coming up with the suggestion, implication, result. But even if we have the some result, it doesn't mean that that's very right. It can
Yes.
So I think knowing that our model, our result can be wrong
Mm-hmm.
is very important, because
Yeah.
we don't want to deliver the wrong message to the practitioners
Right.
who might
Change
adopt.
policy
Yeah,
or
yeah,
adopt
yeah.
their insights. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's
exactly.
important.
Yeah. So this is great. So understanding, okay, and this is another one that you guys didn't exactly say, but I think what I'm hearing too is understanding the context. Like there were plenty of acronyms all over the place, HUD and FYI and all this kind of stuff that you had to learn very quickly. There was the context of understanding how does foster care even work, and having to grasp that immediately. There were the messy data problems. There were working with new people with different backgrounds and different cultures.
Right.
There was the business question that probably felt like it just kept slipping from your hand, and you kept having to go back and not veer away from that. So those are really great top challenges, and not just for this competition, but in general, I find that data science teams have these same kinds of challenges when they have to get something done very quickly. This is great. One more question before you give me some advice, because now we want to know, how did you solve all this? But what was one surprising thing? Was there one thing that happened during the competition that you were like, I am really surprised by that?
Okay, so I think one of the most surprising thing that we came across during this contest was the fact that you can see disparity between your qualitative analysis and your quantitative analysis. Like, you are trying to research the same thing, right? Like, we are trying to know, why do housing authorities fail to adopt these vouchers? You go online, you search, you get papers from Congress, House of Rep, people that have actually done this research. You find out the disparity between what you see from your research and what your data is telling you. So it's surprising, because ideally it's meant to say the same, because from qualitative analysis and numerical analysis should be the same. But at the end of the day, I think that is also where data, that is one of the tasking things about data analysis, because when you find that disparity between your qualitative analysis and your quantitative analysis, your job is to bridge that gap.
To figure it out at least, or explain it, yeah. Yeah, so some of the research you did, these are by people that study this issue and that are policymakers and that, research it all the time. And they're there's this information out there. But then you've got hard data that where it came from, and and if you see a difference between the two, that's probably surprising.
That is
you
surprising.
got to wrap your head around it, figure out how and why and what. What else is what was a big surprise? Any kind of like, wow, how did that happen? I'm surprised by that.
In addition to what Kevin mentioned, within those quantitative data as well, there are so much disaggregated data set all around the place.
Yes.
Data, for this social issue, we can think about different actors being involved. There's government, HUD, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, who distribute this voucher. There is public housing authorities, there's child welfare agency that
Wow.
has to coordinate with public housing authorities, and there are individual level former foster youth, and there are landlords who will accept this or not.
Right.
So there are data for every different levels of actor, and it's so not really in a way that can work together to create a synergy, or for work together for the researcher or data analyst to work on it. So so I think that was quite surprising to find out that in a real world there are a lot of various levels of actors, and it can be surprising to find out that
They're not talking to each other.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
consistent.
exactly,
Like,
yes.
why are they not collaborating? And
Yeah.
they're all collecting the same concept of data, but it's different data.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, isn't that shocking?
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, like each of them have their missions, and
Yeah.
they are driven by this great need to like tackle this social issue.
Yeah, it's a
They,
passion,
Yeah,
yeah.
they are, all of them are passionate, but they are kind of in a not organized way
Right.
to make it effectively be tackled. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And that reminds me, Chanyong, that I was working on a project with a volunteer group, and the biggest argument I've ever seen in a professional setting was among 3 different agencies that were all 3 fighting human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, like, aren't you guys on the same page? Like, aren't you? You would think that they're marching to the same drum,
Yeah.
but no, they didn't. They wanted it done their way, and it was very interesting. So sometimes passion, the passion for the cause, can make it difficult, and you
Yes.
don't understand the sources either. Like we don't have visibility into all of that, so that can make it tricky. But I can see why that's definitely
Yeah.
shocking. Lastly, and this is where you guys can really help people with this question, is what piece of advice or a couple of pieces of advice, because what you guys did is really remarkable, especially when you start talking about some of these challenges, Kevin, with not just the challenges with the data and the business question, and you were talking about the messiness of it all, but the collaboration with each other and such different backgrounds and different cultures even. And oftentimes we as data scientists are thrown into a situation where we have to get something done very fast. So what advice would you guys give to someone really trying to complete a data science project in a very condensed time frame?
Okay, so first of all, I would say when you have a business question or a challenge, a data science project with a short time frame, I think one of the things you want to get right is to get your solution right. Like, you want your answer to be correct at least. So I think the first thing that you should be more concerned about, and it should be your priority, is defining your question framework. Like, get the question clear. It might sound simple, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Get your question clear and get a framework for your approach. Don't just start collecting data all over the place. You are giving yourself loads of work. It will consume your time, and you might end up not getting what you want. Get your question, your problem statement defined, and get a framework for your approach. Know that, okay, this is what I'm trying to answer. This is the data I need. This is the research I have to make. And this is the method I want to use to analyze this data.
Got it.
That way, you put yourself in a small circle and get it done. So
That's great. Okay, this is golden advice here. So I think I heard 3 main pieces. Focus when you first start, you might be like, man, I got to have a perfect solution.
Yeah.
But you're saying focus less on the perfect solution and instead, up front, really understand your business question. Not lightly, but really deeply understand your business question, and also develop a strong framework for your approach before you start going around looking for data. Don't even look at data at all yet. So that's great advice. Focus less on the solution, more on the upfront business problem and your framework for your approach before you touch your data. Great advice. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think?
I would advise, in terms of technical aspect, I would advise to actively seek for what's previously done.
Yes.
In a similar, in terms of similar project or what everybody has done, etc. Rather than trying to like think of spending too much time thinking about it on your own and then like trying to being, starting from the scratch.
Yes.
Because these days, if you look at, if you search for online, there's a great open source repositories that you can build from. For example, there's GitHub, Kaggle, and then there are other people who have done similar project. Even if it's not a similar project, you can like replicate their code, which is in a Jupyter Notebook format, and then you can replicate yourself to learn the logic, and then trying to think yourself that whether this can be applied to your project or not. If it is, then you can copy that code because it's open source, and then you can make a tweak, which will save a lot of time for you. And then as you do that, as you follow those steps, if you stuck with some technical difficulties, then you can always search for online. There's Stack Overflow, there are a lot of people who are willing to answer your question, so you can tackle that issue, and you can always look for other data analytic competition projects.
Yep.
And then if you look for those kind of projects, there are some final output by those other people, which you can learn the process and the steps and write a best practice approach in terms of data analytics. So I'm really suggesting that start trying to build from others' works. Yeah.
Okay. Great. I love that. So what you're saying is don't reinvent the wheel. And there were three main pieces that I heard. One is don't be afraid to do some extensive research. Even if you could go to Google Scholar, something really simple, and look for articles that have been done, check Kaggle, check KD Nuggets, anywhere you might be able to find some kind of research that has already answered this type of question. So secondly, try to leverage existing models, existing code, existing frameworks, existing processes. So don't be afraid to recycle some of what's already been done in a sense. And then thirdly, try reaching out to the community. That there's a whole community of people that are trying to help.
Yeah.
Especially with a nonprofit cause, that they may be able to help you. And so doing that early research, leveraging what's out there already, and benefiting from the community. That's great advice.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for joining us let me get your names right. Kevin Enyekwe,
Yeah.
and Chanyong Yu of University of South Carolina, winners of Master Modeler Competition 2022. Thank you for talking to us again about developing and delivering a quick data science project.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.